What's going on, everybody? Today I'm going to be reviewing all 14 games that happened in the NFL on Sunday. Originally, I wanted to do this a live stream Sunday night, but I had a long weekend, so I'm going to record this on Monday. But for now on, these are going to be every Sunday night. I'm going to be doing these for the Sunday games. Like I said, I'm going to quickly go through every single game that happened. I'm not going to go too in depth about each game, just because that would take like over an hour, and I don't want it to be an hour. So I'm going to start with the Panthers and Falcons. This one I was really excited for. You got Bijan and Bryce Young in this. Also, Desmond Ridder. For the Falcons, though, Bryce Young did not have a great start to his career. I mean, I didn't expect him to throw for 400 yards, obviously. 20, 38 for 146, two picks. Jesse Bates picked him off twice. One touchdown. When you throw 40 times and only for 146 yards, you're not having a good day. Miles Sanders had a decent game. He did fumble, 4 yards a carry's not the best. Truba had himself a good day. But when your best receiver, like their weapons just aren't that great. They're kind of just slightly below average everywhere. I would say Miles Sanders is pretty average running back, but like Terrace Marshall too, like Mingo, Thielen had 2 for 12, Chenault 2 for 16. Just not a great receiving core. I mean, I guess you got Hayden Hurst. Hayden Hurst had himself an all-right day. That's fine for a tight end. 5 for 41, 1 touchdown, 7 targets. It's just not the great of a receiving core. Their defense was all right. I mean, nothing special. 5 tackles was the most. They did have a sack, two and a half, I believe. Yeah, two sacks. I mean, there's not much good to say about Carolina. I mean, you had a rookie quarterback with all right weapons, so I'm not gonna hate on it too much. Desmond Ridder, I know it says 15 of 18, which he did go 15 of 18, but for 115 is not very good. It's a lot of short passes, a lot of passes to the running backs out in the flats. 1 touchdown, no picks, but 15 completions for 115 yards is not very good. I do like what they did with their running backs. I know a lot of people, when they drafted Bijan, said, why you have Tyler Algier. Well, it's because they can use them both. I mean, Tyler still out carried him 15 to 10, which I'd say is a pretty good thing. They both had good averages. 5.6 is insane, or I mean, really good. Here is not very good. I mean, Kyle Pitts had 2 catches, 3 targets for Kyle Pitts. Bijan had 6 catches, but only for 27 yards. That's quick math. Emma had less than 5 yards a catch. Algier got some touches. Drake London 0. See, I didn't watch the entire. I had like 6 different games on, so I really wasn't watching it too much, although I did see the first half. I don't know if Drake London got hurt, but 1 target's not enough for your second-year guy. Like I said, Jesse Bates did get 2 interceptions. They're actually pretty good plays, and they just got Jesse Bates this offseason. That was a great signing. Falcons won. It's good to see. I mean, and they won without Desmond Ridder having himself like a great game. I know he didn't throw a pick. He didn't really do anything. He was just kind of a game manager. What I expected, and they won. They played well. Good win by the Falcons, especially in the division. That's a good game, interesting game. But on to the next one. All right, next game is the Texans and the Ravens. This one was a really boring game, although I was excited to see Stroud. But pretty boring. I mean, not much happened. Stroud threw 44 times in his debut, which is an insane amount. You don't want him throwing 44 times, but the run game was awful. The run game was terrible. 44 attempts, 28 completions for 242, no touchdowns, no picks. I know it's a decent amount of pass yards, actually pretty good pass yards, but it wasn't a very good day. And once again, Baltimore is a good team. I didn't expect CJ Stroud to have a great game, but he had no run game at all. I mean, Pierce averaged under 3.5 yards per carry. Stroud actually ran the ball 4 times, so I was surprised for 20 yards, 5 yards. Singletary 2.14. Like, there is no run game at all. That does not help your rookie quarterback. Nico Collins, Robert Woods getting majority of the load. I might be looking up, if any of you play fantasy, to pick up Nico Collins. He had 11 targets, only 6 catches, but I would expect the number to be higher throughout this season. I'm surprised Dalton Schultz only had 2 for 4 yards. I honestly thought he would be their leading receiver. I just figured a tight end for a rookie is going to get a lot of targets, especially Dalton Schultz. He's a pretty good tight end in Dallas, but that was not the case. Stroud did fumble. Nelson did get a pick. Will Anderson also recorded his first sack of his career, so that's pretty cool. Not much to say on their part, I guess. I mean, they lost not 25-9. Ravens also did not have the best game. Lamar did have a pick, no touchdowns, only 169 pass yards. Not a great day offensively for them. 17-22 is good itself, but once again, less than 10 yards of completion. Not the best. I mean, they won 25-9. I'm not gonna, down on them too much. Lamar is also their leading rusher, which is not a good thing. Another team there was just no running the ball. I'm pretty sure it was raining. It was raining pretty much on the entire East Coast. Zay Flowers was a big bright spot. I'm going for him in fantasy. I'm trying to pick him up, although somebody might have drafted him. But 10 targets, tripled what anybody else got on this team, which is actually insane. I surprised Rashad Bateman was not on there, or Duvernay. I honestly thought Bateman would have been their leading receiver, but they went to Zay Flowers, and he looked great with the ball in his hand. A lot of short passes to him, run after the catch. Lamar did fumble twice and lost one. No picks. Defense looked fine. I can't remember if they lost. Oh, they lost J.K. Dobbins. He did tear his Achilles out for the season. So it looks like they're going to have to go on with Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, and I think there's one other guy. I can't remember. But this game was kind of boring. Not much happened. Ravens didn't look the best. I expect them to be better. But I'm honestly kind of surprised by Houston's defense. They actually played pretty well under new coach DeMeco Ryans. And I'm kind of intrigued to see how they continue the season with the defense. All right, in the next game, big shocker. The Cleveland Browns beat the Cincinnati Bengals 24-3. I thought the Browns would win, but I didn't think they'd hold the Bengals to 3 points. That's actually insane. I had T. Higgins and Joe Burrow in fantasy in my one league, so I lost that game. Combined 3 points between the two. Joe Burrow 14-31 for 82 yards. I did not look it up, but I'm assuming that's his lowest yardage in a game in his entire career in the NFL. That's insane. Joe Mixon did not have himself a great day, 13 for 56, and not a lot of running the ball yesterday in the NFL. Jamar Chase, 5 of 39, 9 targets. Joe Mixon, 317. I mean, 8 targets and 0 catches for T. Higgins is insane. Like, I can't comprehend how he gets 8 targets and no catches. 1 interception. I mean, the defense was fine. Where they get 1, 2 sacks, 3 sacks. Defense played fine. The defense played well enough for them to win the game, but they were on the field the entire time. They just had no support from their offense. Deshaun Watson didn't even play good, like 16-29 for a pick and 154. He did have a touchdown, rushing and passing. Nick Chubb, actually Deshaun Watson's running. I did know he rushed in for a touchdown. 545, 9-yard average, actually pretty good for Watson. He used to be able to run the ball a lot. He didn't last year as much. Nick Chubb had himself a day. That's 18-01-06. That's what you expect from Nick Chubb. He's a workhorse. And they used him to win. Elijah Moore, nobody really went off there wasn't a whole lot of offense. Nick Chubb, definitely the best player in this game on offense. Elijah Moore, surprised he had 7 targets. He's new there. Cooper, I thought would have been better. Nick Chubb catching the ball, too, 4 for 21. Did lose a fumble. They didn't have a pick. I do got to point out, Brown's secondary looked incredible. Grant Delpit and Denzel Ward looked awesome. Delpit was all over. He had seven tackles. He looked great in coverage. There was a couple times that looked like he was going to get a pick, but he played so well. Their defense looked scary. They do have McLeod at safety. Myles Garrett had himself a sack. The Browns look good. I did pick the Browns to come in third in this division. If they can keep it up, make second. I mean, they look like a good team. I knew their roster was good. I don't know. I've never seen it from the Browns. I got to see it first. Their roster's good. Their defense, I think, is going to be pretty good this season. And you can win a lot of games with Nick Chubb. If you get a small lead with that defense and Nick Chubb, you can win a lot of games with that. But good win by the Browns. All right. Jaguars visited the Indianapolis Colts and won 31-21. Thanks to a defensive. No, never mind. So on to the next one. The Jags visited the Indianapolis Colts and won 31-21. Trevor Lawrence looked pretty good in this one. He went 24-32 for 241, 2 touchdowns. He did have a pick, and I believe a fumble as well that went for 6. He played pretty good. He looked good with Calvin Ridley, especially. Travis Etienne looked really good. 18 carries. I'm surprised Travis Etienne's running the ball 18 times because he was known as a receiving back. Pretty decent average, 4.28. Could be better. He did have a touchdown. Um, he looked good though. Trevor Lawrence ran the ball 7 times. I think a couple of these are QB sneaks. Receiving, Calvin Ridley looked awesome. 11 targets. I love to see that. I picked this guy. I think I drafted Ridley in the 4th round of fantasy, but he had 8 catches on 11 targets for 101 and a touchdown. If he didn't step out on the one catch he had, he would have scored a second touchdown for another 20 yards. But he looked great in his first game. Zay Jones had a great catch. Ingram 5 for 50. Travis Etienne still had 5 catches, so he played well. Christian Kirk only 3 targets, 1 catch for 9 yards. He was our leading receiver last year, and he got sent all the way down to the 6 in this game. But they looked great. Did lose a fumble from Tank Bigsby. He also scored a touchdown, first one in his career. They had a pick. They looked pretty good. Josh Allen had 3 sacks. He looked like a beast. Walker, the first overall pick last year, to sack. Jags look good. I mean, I figured the Jags were going to win this game. On the Colts side, Anthony Richardson, I know they lost, and he did have an interception. He looked pretty good for throwing the ball 37 times in the NFL as a rookie, especially a rookie that wasn't known for passing as much in college. Played pretty decent, I would say, 223. He does need to learn to slide. I know he was kind of just banged up throughout the game. He was running a lot. He had 10 carries for 4 yards a carry. It's not very good. He did have a rushing touchdown. But look at his 13 carries for 14 yards is insane for 1 yard a carry. That's disgusting. They didn't want to pay Jonathan Taylor, and look what you got. You got a 13 for 14 guy. Michael Pittman, he started off quiet, but actually ended up pretty well. He had 11 targets. I love to see that. For 97, 1 touch. I also have him in fantasy in my main league, so that was nice. I expected that. I was kind of worried about Michael Pittman. I didn't think they'd target him as much, especially on the outside. I don't know. I just figured they're going to run the ball a lot. But when you can't run the ball, you got to throw it. And Michael Pittman's a pretty good wide receiver 1 for a rookie quarterback to have. He's definitely the best one of all the rookie quarterbacks. Like Bryce Young, he's better than Bryce Young to wide receiver 1 and CJ Stroud's. They did lose 2 fumbles by the said same guy yet. I mean, I would assume, like, that's insane. I can't believe that. Because if he played well, they could easily traded Jonathan Taylor. But now that makes it tough. He can't do that again. Makes it tough on our rookie as well. DeForest Buckner, I think he had the touchdown. The fumble from Trevor Lawrence for a touchdown that was massive, and a sack as well. It was an interesting game, interdivisional game. Jags ended up winning this one though, but Colts didn't look bad. I actually think Shane Steichen had a decent game. The Colts are a lot less talented than the Jags, and they're younger and all that. But Colts didn't look too bad. I actually think they could win a couple games this year. I don't know. I think they'll probably take second or third in this division. All right, on to this game, which sneakily could be game of the day. Tampa Bay walks into US Bank Stadium, I think it is, in Minnesota, and they won 20-17 against the Vikings. Baker Mayfield's debut on Tampa. I thought Tampa was going to go for the first overall pick this season. I thought this was going to be a disaster class, and it honestly should have been. We'll get to the Vikings in a sec, but Baker Mayfield 21-34 for 173 and 2 touchdowns, no picks. Not a great day. 21 completions for 173 yards, but he didn't turn it over. He had 0 interceptions. He did have 8 carries, which is insane for 1.3 yards a carry. Baker played well enough to win. The defense helped him out a lot. But once again, there's no run game. 17 for 39, 2.29 yards per carry, and then 5 for 15. They couldn't run the ball, so that's not going to help Baker out. Mike Evans had himself a day. 10 targets, which is, I like to see that. For 6 for 66 and a touchdown. Trey Palmer had the other touchdown. Bunch of guys in here. Chris Godwin. I mean, I would like to see more targets to Chris Godwin. They did recover a fumble, and they did have an interception. Played well on defense, I guess. I mean, Justin Jefferson, we'll get to this. Justin Jefferson did have himself a day. Kirk Cousins, 33 of 44 for 344. He did have a red zone interception, I believe. He had 2 touchdowns for 1 interception. Madison, they didn't run the ball. They couldn't run the ball. 3 yards a carry, 11 for 34 for Madison. Justin Jefferson had 9 catches for 150 yards and 12 targets. Had himself a day, only to get one up by Tyreek Hill later on, but he still had an incredible day. Jordan Addison had a good debut, 4 for 61 for 1 touchdown on 6 targets. T.J. Hockenson had 9 targets, but not for a lot of yards. It was a good throwing the ball, just they couldn't run the ball. Kirk Cousins lost 2 fumbles. I thought it was 1 he lost 2. Turned the ball over 4 times. I mean, that right? He threw 2 picks. No, 1 pick, 2 fumbles. That's right. Can't have that. I mean, Minnesota should have won this game. They really should have won the game. That's disappointing for Minnesota, especially on a week where you have a short week. You opened up at home, and then now in 3 days, you gotta go play in Philly on Thursday Night Football. I mean, I don't know. You wanted to get this one, especially against Tampa. Tampa's not a very good team. I know they won this game. Good for Tampa. Actually, I'm pretty stoked for Baker Mayfield, but you had to win this game, especially when you're the Vikings. You're trying to compete for the division. You just saw the Lions walk into Kansas City and win, and that was one of the games they had circled on their schedule that they were supposed to win. They didn't. You got a big game on Thursday. You got to win that one. All right, on to one of the more boring games. I'm so sorry if you're a Tennessee Titan or a New Orleans fan. This game was just kind of boring to watch. I mean, it's not that intriguing, but I did say when I was doing my predictions, which I do every Friday, I did say I think Tennessee and the Saints are better teams than people give them credit for. Better defenses people give him credit for. Ryan Tannehill, he's going to want to forget this one. He had 3 interceptions, under 200 pass yards, 16 to 34, almost 20 incompletions. Not a good day for him. Not a good day, really, in general on offense. They only scored 15 points. And Saints only scored 16, but it's enough to win. 3 interceptions is tough. You couldn't run the ball again. DeAndre Hopkins, I will say that's pretty much the only bright spot on this team. He had 13 targets, which actually surprises me. I didn't think he'd get 13 targets in this offense, but he only had 7 catches, 65 yards, pretty average. Traylon Burks needs to see the ball more, 2 for 18, 3 targets. He was your first-round pick last year. He did have an interception on defense from Hooker. It was all right. Simmons had himself a sack. Your defense played well. Your defense outplayed you a lot. 5 field goals. 5 effing field goals. I didn't realize that they had 0 touchdowns on offense. I did see 0. I wasn't paying any attention to that. Wow, they had 5 field goals. You couldn't get They couldn't score 1 single touchdown. That's actually insane. Saints have a good defense, though. Saints do. I think Tennessee does as well. Derek Carr did have himself a good game. He did have a pick, but he threw for 305, 23 of 33 for a touchdown. Jamal Williams, all right. No running again. Nobody was able to run the ball yesterday. Except for I think Austin Eckler had himself a pretty good game running the ball, but we'll get to that one. 305 in his debut in New Orleans. 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Olave had himself a day. I love to see that. The 10 targets, 8 catches, 112 yards. He's a playmaker. Michael Thomas, 5 for 61. Distributed the ball well. Derek Carr, like I said, he's an upgrade. He's the best quarterback in the South. That's why I picked the Saints to win the South in my NFC South predictions, and I still think they do. This is a good win for them. Good play by their offense. They only scored 16, so they only had 1 offensive touchdown. But I think it'll get better. Alright, but that's it for this game. This game was alright. I didn't watch the entire thing. Did see the end of it, but on to the next one. Alright, I know a lot of Steelers fans don't want to hear this one, so Steelers, you could skip to the next one, but San Francisco walks into Heinz Field and wins 30-7. It was complete domination from the first kickoff. Brock Purdy had himself a day, 19-29 for 220, 2 touchdowns. He didn't really have to do too much. I threw some great passes. Christian McCaffrey had himself a day. I have him in fantasy, my main league. I won in fantasy, by the way. 22 of 152 for 6.91s a carry. Brock Purdy even got in there for a couple of rushes. But Christian McCaffrey, they were able to run the ball at will against the Steelers, which I didn't think you'd be able to. I really thought the Steelers would kind of just stop the run and let Purdy beat them. Christian McCaffrey was able to get just, almost 7 yards a carry. One of them was a massive run for like 65 yards, but still, if you took that out, you still ran the ball efficiently on him. Brandon Ayuk, who on top of all my fantasy stuff, I benched him a minute before the game time for Marquise Brown. So Brandon Ayuk did all this on my bench. He went 8 for 8 targets, 8 catches, 129 yards and 2 touchdowns. Had himself a day. Surprised George Kittle only had 3 for 19. I thought he'd have a bigger day. Christian McCaffrey surprisingly only had 3 catches. Debo had a pretty nice day, but Ayuk stole the show. Once again, they didn't have to do much. Their defense was playing phenomenal. Brock Purdy did lose a fumble. I think it was TJ Watt forced the fumble, got the sack, and also recovered it. They did have 2 picks. One of the interceptions was pretty badly thrown by Pickett. Once again, defense played great. Drake Jackson had 3 sacks. Hargrave had himself a sack. Nick Bosa didn't do much. Steelers, TJ Watt looked great. That's your only bright spot. Also, Najee only had 6 here. I think Najee was hurt for a little bit of it. I think he was out and then came back. They had a lot of injuries yesterday against Steelers. Kenny went 31 of 46 for 232, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. The interceptions were bad, especially the one. But besides, the drive before the half, he looked great. They went down the field, 2-minute drive right before halftime and scored a touchdown. You kind of thought they had some life in them. But they did not. That life got sucked right back out on the opening drive by San Fran in the second half. They scored. Actually should be in here. End of half, touchdown, 65 yards. It was 58 seconds. Yeah, so they sucked the life right out of them. Not once again 5.7, but he only has 6 carries. Besides, what's that? 41 rushing yards is awful. You're not gonna win doing that. George Pickens at 7 targets, but only 36 yards. Allen Robinson, that's insane. Allen Robinson was their leading receiver. I know Deontay Johnson probably would have been, but he got hurt. I think he pulled a hamstring. Did something to his hamstring on his last catch of the day. I don't know. Pat Frymuth only had 1 catch. That's not good. They got to be better. TJ Watt had 2 forced fumbles. TJ Watt, like I said, he had 3 sacks and 2 forced fumbles. He played awesome. He was the only player that showed up. Corners got smoked. Not much to say about the Steelers. They lost 30-7. All right, on to the Arizona Cardinals at Washington Commanders. The Commanders ended up winning this one 20-16. Everybody picked the Commanders. Arizona's going for that first overall pick. They're not a good team. But I will say, if Arizona had Kyler Murray, I think they would have won by at least a touchdown against the Commanders. They did not look good at all, the Commanders. Should have blown them out the water. You're at home, week 1. Arizona just picked up their starting quarterback 2 weeks ago. Josh Dobbs went 21 of 30 for 132. He didn't play well. What was he going to do? He wasn't going to do anything. James Conner had a pretty decent day, 14 for 62. Marquise Brown had a big run. Throwing the ball, once again, they're just not going to do anything. 33 yards as their leading receiver. I had Marquise Brown at fantasy for 20 yards. Zach Ertz did have 10 targets for only 6 catches for 21 yards. He did fumble 3 times and lose 2 of them. They gave the ball away and they still only lost by 4 points. They did have a pick. Kaiser White, their new guy, had led them in tackles. Kevon Wallace also had 3, and he's a starter. I'm surprised. Just wasn't the best day. This game wasn't clean at all on the offense side of the ball. Sam Howell in his second-year debut starting went 19-31 for 202, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Not the greatest day from him. I also think he fumbled at least once. Brian Robinson, only 3 yards a carry. Once again, another game of just no running the ball. But Curtis Samuel was leading the way in yards, which is surprising. Terry McLaurin only had 2 catches. Jahan Dotson, I thought Dotson would have a bigger day. But not. There wasn't much going on. I'm glad I benched Terry, but I know Terry has turf toe or so. I know he's injured, so I didn't think he'd go full. Sam Howell did fumble, and that's right. Antonio Gibson also fumbled. No picks. I mean, Allen had a sack. Montez Sweat had a sack and a half. Who's there? Like, oh, Emmanuel Forbes. All right, he had 3. Tackle for loss. I mean, he played all right. But this game wasn't the cleanest on offense. I thought Washington would have won by a little more than this. I thought they'd control the game. They were losing 16-10 at some point. Not the best game from Washington. All right, on to the second window games. This one I was excited for. I was really excited for this one. I'm not a fan of either team, but there's a lot of bragging rights in this one. Jordan Love, first season as a starter. Justin Fields, Bears invested a lot this offseason. Both teams wanting to win. I did pick the Packers to win, and they won big in this one, 38-20 in Soldier Field. That is highly disappointing for the Bears. Love showed out. Love really played. I think he had like a 123 passer rating, went 15-27 for 245, 3 touchdowns, no picks. I will say, though, this is the game you want Love to start because the Bears are still one of the lower team. Like, they're one of the worst teams in the league, so this is a good game for Love to start against. He was missing his number 1 wide receiver in Christian Watson. Aaron Jones, 941, their leading running back. Dillon had 13 carries for 19 yards, 1.46 yards per carry. Another team that just couldn't run the ball very well. Aaron Jones had a big day receiving, 2 catches for 86 yards and a touchdown. I think there were screens that he took pretty far. Romeo Doubs had 2 touchdowns on only 26 yards. Once again, he was missing Watson, but they distributed the ball really well. They don't really have a one receiver, so he did not favor one guy. Threw it all around, so good for them. Once again, no picks, no fumbles lost. Quay Walker did have a pick 6. That was actually crazy play. Lucas Van Ness did have his first sack of his career. It was a good day. Good day for the Packers. That's an awesome game for the Packers. The Bears, however, super disappointing. Justin Fields went 24-37, which isn't bad in itself. Only 216 yards, a touchdown, and that pick 6 to Walker. Ran the ball 9 times. There's a lot leading running back. Khalil Herbert, I'm surprised, only 3 yards to carry. I thought he would have had a bigger day. 9 for 27. Once again, they're not, like, these running backs aren't getting. This is like a trend where the starting running backs are only averaging 3 yards a carry. Nobody could run the ball yesterday. Mooney, 453, and their sole touchdown passing the ball. What's DJ Moore? Only 2 targets. I'm surprised. I know they had that preseason where he had like 2 targets for like 100 yards and 2 touchdowns or whatever it was, and everybody was buying into the DJ Moore hype. They need to throw the ball, even if it's just on screens, just get him the ball in his hand. Like 7 targets for Rashawn Johnson, and then DJ Moore with 2. That's unacceptable. Fields did lose a fumble. Once again, no picks. I know TJ Edwards, the new guy, got burned by Aaron Jones coming across the middle. Not many good things to say about the Bears in this one. All right. The Las Vegas Raiders walked into Denver and ended up winning in Mile High 17-16. Big day for Jimmy Garoppolo in his Raiders debut. 20 for 26 for 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did have a pick. Josh Jacobs, once again, here we go. 2.5 yards a carry. Not a good day running the ball for this running back group. Jimmy Garoppolo had 9 carries for 1.2 yards a carry. I know he did scramble for, was it a 3rd and 6 to ice the game? And he ends up rushing for it. Jacoby Myers had himself a day. Sitting on my bench in fantasy. 9 for 81. 2 touchdowns on 10 targets. Davante Adams had a decent day. 6 for 61 and 9 targets. But besides that, nobody else got the ball. They did not get their... So Michael Mayer, their tight end that they drafted in the 1st round, did not get the ball. So that's somewhat disappointing. It was a good day. I mean, 17-16, not a lot's going to happen. Marcus Epps, their new guy. 2 tackles. Was all right. Max Crosby did have it himself a sack. Oh, that's right. Marcus Peters is there too. Can't think of their other edge rusher. But A pretty decent slugfest interdivisional game. Russell Wilson, a lot of short passes. 27 to 34 is really good, but 177 is not. He did have no turnovers, 2 touchdowns. Um, so like they just couldn't put the ball in the end zone. Rushing the ball, P. Ryan had himself a good day, 8 for 41. Jonte Williamson not 4 yards a carry. It's all right, 13 to 52. They were held under 100 rushing yards. Receiving the ball, this is gross to look at. Samaje Perine, 4 catches for 37. Their leading receiver was Samaje Perine. Cortland Sutton, 4 for 32, did have a touchdown. Dulcich, I thought would have more. Was it Jerry Jeudy was out? That's right. Devontae had 4 catches for 5 yards. Like, just not a lot there. Jackson did have an interception. Defense was good. I mean, defense held them to 17 points. That's enough to win. They just didn't. That's a big win for the Raiders. I thought the Broncos are going to win this one. I don't really think either team looked good, but I think there's a lot to take away from. I think Russell Wilson had a high completion percentage. Like, he was throwing the ball, not for a lot of yards. They got to go downfield a little more, and I think when Jerry Jeudy comes back, that's going to be a little easier. Defense looked good, though. Expected that. Vegas, Jimmy G looked all right. Josh Jacobs, he's going to get going, so I'm not too worried about that. It's a decent game for both teams. On to potentially the game of the week. Unless you're talking about defense and it was awful. Miami Dolphins went into SoFi Stadium in LA and won 36-34. Just an offensive title, like heavyweight bout. Tua went 28-45 for 466, 3 touchdowns and a pick, 466 yards. I believe that's the most this week. They could not run the ball, but they could sure pass it. Raheem Mostert was their leading running back at 10 for 37. He did have a touchdown. Tyreek Hill, 11 for 215 and 2 receiving touchdowns on 15 targets. Jalen Waddle even had himself a good day for 4 for 78. But 215 on 11 targets, that's insane. Tyreek Hill, player of the game. He was unstoppable. I mean, he won that game. They could not touch him. Tua did fumble twice, lost 1. No picks. I mean, there were no defense. I don't even know why I'm looking at this. There's no defense on either side. But Tua to Tyreek was insane. I picked Miami to win this division, to win the AFC East, by the way. And I said it, as long as Tua is healthy, this team is unreal. They're so good on offense. They could score on one play because of Tyreek Hill. Just throw it deep to him. You can't teach speed. But with that being said, I will say it was a decent game by the Chargers too. Justin Herbert did not have himself a great day. You don't have to worry about Herbert. I don't think, like, 23-33, 228, 1 touch. That's a below average game to average. Austin Eckler, I do really like this. They were able to run the ball really well. Which I would rather, like, in a loss. So like, say they lost this game either way, I would have rather they lose like this fashion while being able to run the ball than lose it with Herbert having like 400 yards and no rushing yards. Because I do believe Herbert, he's obviously going to bounce back. He's going to play better than this. But it's really good to see them being able to run the ball. To give Herbert a rushing attack is really important. You can win a lot of games running the ball, especially when you have the lead. You can waste a lot of clock. Eckler had a great day around the ball, 16 and 117, 1 touchdown. And then Kelly, 16-91 and a touchdown as well. That's awesome to see. Keenan Allen, leading receiver. I do love to see that as well. Eckler, only 4 catches. A little surprised by that. Once again, they didn't throw for a lot of yards because they were able to run the ball. But their defense was... Oh, and I should point out Quentin Johnson. He only had 3 targets, 2 catches, 9 yards on short passes. So not great on his part, or not really his fault, but wasn't the best day throwing the ball. J.C. Jackson did get a pick. I saw that. That was awesome. 0 sacks, so they were able to get 0 pressure with Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack on that defense. They also have Derwin James and Asante Samuel Jr. This is pretty disappointing in this defense. There's a lot of money being thrown on that defense, and J.C. Jackson, there's a lot of money on that defense to let up 36 points, but Miami could be the number 1 offense in the league, so can't hate on them too much. I think both teams played great. Offense, at least, got to tighten up the defense. On to the Eagles Patriots. This felt weird. Felt like a loss for the Eagles. They came out to a 16-0 lead. And the offense was stagnant. They were on the field for like a minute to like 2 minutes, like four straight drives. And their defense was exhausted because they're on the field for they would take like a minute break and have to go right back out there. Hurts did not have a good day. He 22 for 33 for 170 at a touchdown. Running the ball, they could not run the ball, like 14 for 54, 3 yards a carry. Hurts couldn't run the ball that well either. DeAndre Swift only had 2 touches this game, which is surprising. A.J. Brown had a pretty good day, 7 to 79. Devontae, 7 for 47 and a touchdown. The touchdown was awesome. Quez had 2 for 17. Dallas Goedert had 0 catches. That's unreal. It was like a tsunami in the first half when the Eagles had like received the ball. They just ran them. Like they could not throw the ball. Defense was pretty weird. Jalen Hurts did have a crucial fumble that is unlike him. That's only like the third fumble he's had in the regular season in like the last 2 years. He got smacked. Safety came right up the middle, smacked him like a 9-yard rush, and he ball popped right out. It was a beautiful hit. Darius Slay did have a pick six for 70 yards. Defense is really weird because it's not really their fault. They were on the field for so like the Eagles offense did not give them a break. I will say the passing attack, like the coverage did not look that great, especially the linebackers. Jordan Davis looked really good. He did have that forced fumble on Zeke. Jordan Davis looked awesome. And I will also say, where is he? Jalen Carter looked like a freak out there. Like if Patriots doing a lot of quick plays, a lot of screens, a lot of short passes. They were getting the ball out in under like 2.5 seconds. But Jalen Carter, I think he had the most pressures out of any. Actually, he did. He had the most pressures out of any defensive tackle in Week 1. I know it's not over this game tonight, so I could be passed. It's also the most pressures in like the last 10 years or something by a rookie in Week 1. He had like 6 pressures. He had like a 34% rush win rate. He did have a sack at the end of the game on the crucial third down, but he looked like an animal. And this is Week 1. He didn't play a lot of snaps, or he played a decent amount of snaps, but he wasn't the starter. It was Jordan Davis and Fletcher Cox. But if Mac Jones wasn't getting the ball out fast, Jalen Carter was in there so many times in 2 seconds. It was awesome. Onto the Patriots. Mac Jones played great. Mac Jones, actually, I think Patriot fans are walking away from this game thinking highly of Mac Jones. He had 35 for 54 attempts. He threw the ball more than any quarterback this week for 316, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick six. He couldn't run the ball at all. Ramondre Stevens had a terrible day running the ball. They were going against Jordan Davis and Fletcher Cox. That's tough. Receiving, Kendrick Bourne had 11 targets, only 6 catches. He did have 2 touchdowns. Hunter Henry made a couple of great catches. Did have a touchdown. Hunter Henry had himself a day. So did Mike Gesicki. Zeke did fumble the ball. Their defense played pretty good. Gonzalez did have a sack. The tight end just like chipped him and then let him rush right in. Matt Judon had a sack. Uchi had a sack. It was a good game by the Patriots. Eagles did not feel like a win, but they got a lot to clean up. They do have a short turnaround, though. They play Thursday night, so they got to clean some stuff up. All right, the next game. This might have been the biggest upset this week. I thought Seahawks were going to blow them out, especially without Cooper Kupp. I didn't think the Rams could do it. They end up walking into Seattle in Week 1 and win 30-13. They were down like 13-10 or 13-7 and blow them out. Matt Stafford had himself a day passing yardage-wise, 24-38 for 334. No touchdowns, no picks. They couldn't run the ball either, but they did, punch in for like 2 touchdowns, one touchdown, but he had 1.3 yards a carry. 22 carries for 1.3 yards. Tutu Atwell, and I don't even know how to say it, Puka Nakua, 10 for 119. That is unreal for 15 targets. He's looking like a fantasy player to pick up. That's awesome. Defense, they didn't have an interception. Only 3 sacks, I think it is. I mean, if you add all these up, 2 sacks. I'm surprised they put up 30 points, especially without running the ball. They were able to pass the ball. Wait, was it? I'm trying to add up how they scored all these points. Oh, 5 field goal attempts. He still missed 2 of them. But he did put up 12 points, so it was at 18. Alright. Whatever, they put up 30 points. Geno Smith had himself an awful day. I did predict that Geno would not have the... I didn't think he'd repeat last season. It is week 1, it's early. 112 yards is terrible. 1 touchdown, no picks. Kenneth Walker had a pretty good day. Although he didn't run the ball a lot because they were down for most of the second half. DK 3 for 47. He did have a great touchdown. Jackson Smith and Najigba only 5 targets, 3 catches for 13. Tyler Lockett had a bad game. Was it no sack? They couldn't get to Matt Stafford. He was a traffic cone in the back. Bad game by Seattle. I don't know who they play next week, but hopefully it's somebody pretty easy they could bounce back against. It was an awful game by their offense and their defense. Like their secondary did not play well, especially for investing. Oh wait, I want to check out Witherspoon, because that's who they drafted first round. Did he not play? Yeah, alright, so he didn't record any statistics. Witherspoon? I don't believe that, but it's saying he didn't. Maybe he's not their star. He's got to be starting to the draft at 5th overall. Anyway, Rams win 30-13. Alright, and the final game from Sunday, I'm not going to say much about it. Dallas won 40-0 in New York. That's New York fans got to be the most disgusted fans in the league right now, right behind the Chicago Bears. At least they scored some points. Giants look I mean, they lost this right away. Once again, I'm not going to say much. I'm trying to wrap this up. Dak only had 13 completions for 143 yards. Tony Pollard was able to run the ball very well. Their whole team was able to run the ball very well. But their defense went off. They had 2 interceptions. They did have a field goal block for a touchdown. They had a pick 6 on the bounce off Saquon's hands. Maybe there's a fumble. I don't know what they called it as. They had a bunch. They have 7 sacks. Armstrong had 2, 1, 1. He had no time. Daniel Jones had no time in the pocket. Every play they were rushing and they were in there. Daniel Jones, 1 of 4 yards, 2 picks. Saquon ran the ball all right, I guess. Daniel Jones ran it a ton. He was running for his life. Whereas Jalen Hyatt, 0 catches. Darren Waller, 5 targets, 3 catches. It's not a good game. Once again, I'm not going to say much. This game is over fast, 40-0. Anyway, this is my Sunday review. I'm going to try to do this every Sunday. Just talk about the games, how they went. Hope you guys enjoyed. And also, let me know who you guys think are going to win the game tonight. I know the Jets and Bills are playing. That'll be a good one. But I'll see you Wednesday when I release my NFL ranks for all 32 teams.